Every morning, upon waking, your body presents a unique gift, the day's most powerful metabolic window. This window is already open before you do anything, yet most people unknowingly close it within the first 15 minutes, missing a profound biological opportunity. The issue isn't breakfast itself, but what happens when any food enters your body. Insulin levels surge, and while insulin is elevated, your fat cells become biologically sealed. They're not partially restricted, but completely blocked. Hormone-sensitive lipase, or HSL, is the enzyme solely responsible for breaking down triglycerides and fat cells into free fatty acids for fuel. Crucially, HSL is directly and completely deactivated in the presence of insulin. It doesn't matter how much you exercise or how clean your diet is. As long as insulin circulates in your bloodstream, your body is biologically prohibited from accessing its fat reserves. Insulin always has the final say, without exception. Before we continue, tell us in the comments what time you usually have your first meal. By the end of this video, you'll understand that number and what's truly happening in your body every morning in a completely new light. Most people misunderstand their morning biology. You've been fasting for 7 to 8 hours while you slept, during which insulin gradually decreased to its lowest basal level of the entire day. Your fat cells are in their most unlocked state. Your body is just hours away from completing a metabolic transition towards active fat oxidation. This process began on its own, automatically, through your nighttime biology, without any conscious decision from you. Then, breakfast arrives. Insulin spikes, fat cells seal up, and that metabolic window slams shut. Now, imagine, instead of interrupting this natural process, you simply allowed it to continue for just 4 more hours. This isn't about deprivation or an extreme diet. You would simply extend the overnight fast your body already started while you slept, completing a total of 16 hours, followed by an 8-hour eating window. What happens inside your body during those 16 hours is one of the most documented and evidence-backed biological transformations in modern metabolic science. It's not a trend or a fad, it's tissue biochemistry with decades of research. To understand why fasting works in a way no conventional diet can replicate, you must first grasp the mechanism controlling access to your fat stores. Hormone-sensitive lipase is the key enzyme. HSL is responsible for breaking down triglycerides stored within fat cells, converting them into free fatty acids that the body uses as fuel. This enzyme is regulated directly and inversely by insulin. Even a small amount of insulin in the bloodstream suppresses HSL. It doesn't gradually reduce it, it times it. The longer insulin remains elevated, the longer your fat cells remain completely sealed. When you eat, insulin rises, HSL is deactivated, and fat cells are blocked. When you fast, insulin levels drop, HSL is reactivated, and fat cells are unlocked. This is fundamental tissue biochemistry. Consuming 3 meals a day without fasting periods means HSL remains suppressed for most of the day. Extending the overnight fast to 16 hours gives HSL the uninterrupted time it needs to fully perform its function. The 8th hour of fasting marks the beginning of the first significant metabolic change. This is a point most people never reach because they eat right before it begins. Insulin has returned to its baseline level. HSL is reactivated on the surface of fat cells throughout the body. Fat cells begin to release stored triglycerides as free fatty acids, flowing through the bloodstream as available fuel. But a parallel process is also occurring. Since your last meal, your liver has been using its glycogen reserves, stored glucose, as fuel. After 8 hours of fasting, those reserves are significantly depleted. This is a critical threshold. When liver glycogen falls below this critical threshold, the liver activates an enzyme called AMPK, or adenosine monophosphate activated protein kinase. AMPK functions as a master metabolic switch. When activated, AMPK changes the state of liver and skeletal muscle cells from storage mode to oxidation mode. At this moment, fat is not only released from fat cells, it begins to be actively burned as fuel at the cellular level. This is the metabolic transition most people never achieve because they eat right before it begins. It's not theoretical, it's real-time biochemistry within each mitochondrion. In the 10th hour of fasting, something extraordinary happens in the pituitary gland. Growth hormone, often associated with muscle development or anti-aging, begins to rise steadily. In adipose tissue, this hormone performs a completely different and extraordinarily relevant function for fat loss. It directly metabolizes triglycerides stored within fat cells, converting them into free fatty acids available as fuel. A 2015 study confirmed that fasting substantially increases levels of endogenous growth hormone, and these levels only return to baseline when eating resumes. This is a powerful, natural boost. During fasting, growth hormone performs two functions simultaneously. It breaks down fat for energy and actively preserves lean muscle mass. This is a fundamental difference from simple calorie restriction. When you reduce calories without fasting, you lose both fat and muscle. The body lacks a hormonal mechanism to selectively protect muscle tissue during conventional calorie restriction. When you fast, growth hormone acts as a protective shield for your muscle, while directing oxidation specifically towards fat stores. Your body composition improves beyond just the number on the scale. A comprehensive 2023 meta-analysis confirmed that intermittent fasting reduces fat mass while increasing fat-free mass compared to continuous energy restriction. This is a significant finding for body composition. This distinction is especially critical after age 50, when preserving muscle is as high a priority as eliminating fat. Conventional calorie restriction often leads to muscle loss, accelerating metabolic deterioration. Fasting is not merely a more intense version of dieting, it is a fundamentally different hormonal state. It changes how your body manages energy, rather than just the amount of energy it consumes. When your body crosses the 1-2 hour fasting mark, something happens that transforms not only your metabolism, but also your mental functioning. Liver glycogen is significantly depleted. During the last few hours, your body has been functioning with its last available glucose reserves, and those reserves are now running out. This triggers a crucial metabolic adaptation. In response, the liver activates a metabolic pathway called ketogenesis. It begins to take the free fatty acids released from adipose tissue and converts them into ketone bodies. The main one is beta-hydroxybutyrate. Beta-hydroxybutyrate is not just an alternative fuel source. It's a signaling molecule that crosses the blood-brain barrier and directly feeds neurons with an efficiency glucose cannot match. The mental clarity many experience around midday when fasting since the night before isn't willpower. It's a documented neurological phenomenon. Ketones fuel the brain more efficiently than glucose. The brain functions better, more clearly, and with greater energy stability during prolonged fasting than during carbohydrate feeding. Research in nutrients confirmed improved glucose levels and circadian clock markers. Between hours 14 and 16 of fasting, something happens inside every cell of your body that no medication, supplement, or pharmacological intervention can induce. Autophagy begins. The word autophagy comes from Greek, meaning self-consumption. Yet the process is the exact opposite of destruction. It's a deep and systematic cellular renewal, literally a cleanup from within. When insulin decreases and glucagon increases during prolonged fasting, mTOR1, the master regulator of cell growth, is deactivated. The moment mTOR1 shuts down, cells stop growing and accumulating and begin to clean themselves internally. These autophagosomes engulf damaged proteins, dysfunctional organelles, intracellular pathogens, and accumulated metabolic waste. They transport them to lysosomes, where they're broken down and recycled to build new, functional cellular structures. Cells literally dismantle their own damage and rebuild themselves from the recovered materials. It's cellular maintenance from the inside out, a profound process of self-healing and renewal. The 2016 Nobel Prize in Physiology or Medicine was awarded to Yoshinori Osumi for his work on the mechanisms of autophagy. This is not marginal science. It's validated by the most important recognition in modern biology. And the most potent and documented trigger of autophagy in humans is fasting. 16 hours of fasting activates this repair system that most people never access because they never fast long enough to reach it. Each hour of fasting has a specific biological milestone, and each early meal cancels the milestones that have not yet arrived. Understanding these points is crucial to maximizing the benefits. At 8 hours, insulin reaches its baseline level. Hormone-sensitive lipase is reactivated, and fat cells begin to release stored fatty acids, making them available for energy. At 10 hours, growth hormone rises from the pituitary gland. Triglycerides within fat cells begin to break down actively, and lean muscle mass is actively protected by this powerful hormone. At 12 hours, liver glycogen is depleted and ketogenesis is activated. Beta-hydroxybutyrate begins to fuel the brain more efficiently than glucose, enhancing mental clarity. Between 14 and 16 hours, mTOR1 is deactivated, autophagy is initiated, and cellular repair and recycling begin at a systemic level. This is deep internal rejuvenation, Breaking the fast at 8 hours means losing growth hormone, ketogenesis, and autophagy completely. Breaking it at the 1-0 hour mark means losing ketogenesis and autophagy. Breaking your fast at the 1-2 hour mark means losing autophagy. Fasting until noon, however, allows you to achieve all these milestones. All are documented in peer-reviewed medical literature. What does accumulated evidence show over weeks and months? A 2024 review of time-restricted feeding trials confirmed that the 16-8 model produced significant weight loss of 1.2 to 10.2%. Furthermore, it showed a reduction in the visceral fat compartment of between 11 and 27% in overweight and obese subjects. That reduction is not a small number. Visceral fat, which surrounds the internal abdominal organs, is the most metabolically active and most associated with cardiovascular risk, insulin resistance, and metabolic syndrome. It's not the fat you see in the mirror. A landmark 2018 study published in Cell by Sutton and colleagues confirmed that early time-restricted feeding improved insulin sensitivity, blood pressure, and oxidative stress, even without weight loss, in men with prediabetes. The metabolic improvements occurred before a single gram of fat tissue was lost, because the mechanism does not operate on calories, it operates on hormones. Fasting fundamentally changes your body's internal chemistry. A 2023 study with 90 patients over 14 weeks confirmed that those who followed early time-restricted feeding showed greater improvements in body weight, body fat, heart rate, insulin resistance, and fasting glucose compared to the control group. A natural question arises. If more hours of fasting produce more benefits, why not extend it until 2 or 3 p.m. instead of breaking it at midday? The answer lies in a protein within the beta cells of the pancreas called BMAL1. BMAL1 controls the efficiency with which pancreatic beta cells respond to glucose and secrete insulin appropriately. This protein reaches its peak level during the morning and gradually decreases towards the afternoon and evening. When BMAL1 is high, the same amount of carbohydrates produces a significantly lower insulin spike. When BMAL1 is low, the exact same food can produce an insulin response up to 40% higher. By breaking your fast at midday, you align your first meal with the end of the period of maximum pancreatic sensitivity and efficiency. You get the full benefits of 16 hours of fasting. Breaking your fast at 3 or 4 inches the afternoon means your first meal reaches a pancreas that has already entered its less efficient evening state. The insulin response is greater, the peak more pronounced, and longer. Some of the work that fasting built up over hours is partially reversed. Midday is the biological optimum. Late enough to reach all the milestones of fasting, yet early enough that your metabolism is still aligned with the day's circadian biology. What you eat to break your fast is just as important as the fast itself. Breaking 16 hours of biological preparation with refined carbohydrates produces a massive insulin spike that immediately undoes the insulin sensitivity fasting built up. It's the equivalent of opening a door and slamming it shut in the same motion. Your first meal should be rich in protein: eggs, Greek yogurt, salmon, cottage cheese, nuts. Protein after fasting does 3 things simultaneously. First, it stabilizes blood glucose, preventing the postprandial insulin spike that would reseal fat cells. Second, it provides the amino acids the body needs to continue the cell rebuilding process that autophagy initiated during the last hours of fasting. This supports ongoing cellular renewal. And third, it suppresses ghrelin, the hunger hormone, for 4 to 5 hours. This means your appetite remains naturally controlled throughout the afternoon, making adherence easier. Fasting opens the metabolic door, and protein keeps it open. This strategic approach ensures you maximize the benefits gained from your fasting period. During the fasting window, only plain water, black coffee without sugar or milk, and green tea without sweeteners or milk are safe. Any food with calories, sugary or dairy beverages, or fruit juice will raise insulin and break a fast. Black coffee during fasting not only doesn't interrupt it, but actively improves fat oxidation by increasing adrenaline and activating the same AMPK pathway that fasting naturally triggers. Green tea during fasting independently supports the autophagic process through its polyphenols. Electrolytes, sodium, potassium, and magnesium dissolved in water maintain mineral balance without affecting insulin. The fasting window is not a period of suffering. It is a period of water, black coffee, and green tea, while your body performs its deepest cellular maintenance of the day. Now, important considerations. First, if you have type 1 diabetes, are pregnant, have a history of eating disorders, or take medications that require food, talk to your doctor before starting. Fasting is a powerful tool needing correct medical context. Second, don't start with 16 hours. Start with 12, which most people already do between dinner and breakfast without calling it fasting. Add 1 hour per week until you reach 16 hours gradually and comfortably. Accelerating adaptation produces unnecessary fatigue and hunger, mistakenly interpreted as fasting not working. Your body needs weeks to adapt its enzymes, transporters, and metabolic pathways to the new eating pattern. Third, hunger during fasting is almost always hormonal, not caloric. Ghrelin, the hunger hormone, is released according to a schedule determined by when you usually eat. It's conditioning, not a true energy need. Ghrelin reaches its peak and disappears within 20 to 30 minutes if you don't eat. If you can overcome that peak with water or black coffee, the hunger disappears completely. Most people never discover this. Hunger was a habit, not an urgent biological need. So far, we've explored effects on visceral fat, body composition, insulin sensitivity, and cellular repair. But there are 3 additional dimensions. Delay your first meal 4 hours beyond waking. Understand that morning hunger is a ghrelin peak that disappears in 30 minutes. What you feel isn't your body deteriorating, it's your body doing exactly what it was designed to do. Fast until noon. Break your fast with protein. Give your body the hormonal environment it has been waiting for every morning. If this video showed you that fasting is a completely different hormonal state, subscribe. See you next time.